The island, home to many creatures, caves, and challenges. Having spent more than 1500 hours in the game, you might think to yourself that I must have done everything that this game has to offer, right? No, not even close. My experience with ARK can best be summarized by this picture right here. Since 2015, I've never legitimately defeated a single boss, I've never bred my tamed dinos, and I've never used a tech suit. During this 100-day challenge that I'm about to undergo, inspired by Zany Zebra's videos, I intend to remedy all that. Breed a dino army, defeat all of the bosses on alpha difficulty, mess around in a tech suit, and explore to the fullest what is undoubtedly one of the most influential survival games ever. Make yourselves a cup of coffee or tea, grab some snacks, and enjoy what is undoubtedly the most ambitious project on my channel thus far. My journey began as it usually does on ARK. I created the character, gave him an appropriate name, and woke up naked on the beach. Everything that I've done during day 1 was just farming and leveling up. What I usually like to do at the start of any playthrough is build a raft and make a starter base on it. And I think it turned out pretty well. A bit quirky, I know, but it'll do the job. I then got around to smelting metal in order to make metal tools, and I know that it is a bit quick that I've got to this point, and that's because I messed up with the XP rates. This issue will be fixed in the later days. And at the end of day 1, I set off in search of my permanent base location.
That's got to be the best part I've ever seen.
At the start of the second day, I was scouring the area next to the red obelisk, and I saw this beautiful waterfall where I actually had a base once, and I decided to build here. I started gathering all the necessary materials, which is stone, wood and thatch, to create a circular base out of dino gates. I really don't like building big boxes, and I think it turned out pretty well. The entirety of day 3 was dedicated to finishing the build and placing the smithies, the forges and the preserving bins. And while it's not the most elaborate build I've done, it was still fine for a starter base. I was at the point where I was in dire need of a flyer, so the next few days I've spent around looking for a pteranodon. I gathered some narco berries, made some trank arrows, and I set off in search of a good level PT. I saw a Spino very close to our base, I got knocked out by Troodons, and left at the mercy of 2 raptors. Yeah, I did kill him at the end. Yeah, because why not? I had a very close encounter with an alpha raptor. My crossbow broke and I had to go back to base, then my spear broke, and it was really bad all around. And at the end of the day I actually found a 116 pteranodon, I knocked it out, got back to base to get some prime meat, went back, and it was gone. I still heard it, and I decided to K-mode, and yeah, there it was. I was furious. So I decided, you know what? Fuck it. I was tired of searching around for a pteranodon, and I decided to go for a level 64, which I named Pepsi. No idea why I named it like that, but whatever. The next logical step in progressing was to get myself an RG. I made a trap, and went in search of a good level Argentavis. But before that I needed to get a spyglass to actually be able to see its level. And later on I didn't actually manage to find a decent level RG. I've built a trap, I lured it in, and I closed off the area behind it, and I started knocking it out. It was doing these weird spinning moves, don't know what that was about, but okay. Eventually I was able to knock it out, I fed it some prime meat, and I named him Mac Chicken. Just cause. I don't really have a specific name scheme for the creatures. We were on our way back home, and it's when I saw this.
Stand by for Titanfall.
That's weird, I guess. And we were finally back home, awaiting the arrival of Mac Chicken. Having an RG is such a blessing, man. I was able to gather so much resources in day 8, specifically crystal and metal. And I also looked around in the redwoods for Thylacolios, which are probably my favorite creatures in the game. Suffice it to say, I've killed every low-level Thylacoleo, so that higher levels could spawn. I also had an encounter with an Alpha Raptor who I could finally defeat because of how insane the RG was, and I also encountered an Alpha Carno, which I also defeated. and I got some good loot from both of them. On day 9 I started looking around for utility dinos, which is an Anki, a Doedicurus and a Beaver. The Anki was a bit suicidal, but yeah, I'll fix him. So I got him back to base, I knocked him out, and I named him Frosted Flakes. And I also made some cryopods, which I've never used, and at the end of the day I gathered a bunch of narcoberries. On day 10 I was once again on the hunt for utility dinos, and this time it's a Doedicurus. I found one, got him to base, and I named him Cinnamon Roll. And these guys are so cool, they gather so much stone. On day 11 I was doing the usual activities, which is farming and looking around for Thylates, which I'm gonna be doing for quite some time. I also found a beaver, I stole all of his belongings, captured him, and went back to base. I tamed him up, and I gave him the name Chuck. And Chuck is epic, just look at him go. And by the end of day 11 I had all the utility dinos that I needed. On days 12 and 13 I was looking around for mutton in the snow biome. I fought an alpha raptor, again, and another alpha carno. By the end of day 13 I haven't found a single ovis in the snow biome, and I almost died due to how cold it was. By the end of day 18 I finally finished the project. I really like how this build turned out, and although it's not as large scale and elaborate as the builds I've done in the past, those castles had a large downside in the form of a lot of wasted space which I couldn't figure out how to utilize. The koala compound, as I like to call it, is perfect for a lone survivor like myself, as every room serves a purpose. On day 19 I was once again gathering metal, and I went back to the snow biome to once again search for ovis. And I almost had a heart attack, because this deer looked so much like an ovis from the distance. And yeah, I killed it just because it looked so much like a sheep. I also murdered a whole family of penguins in order to get organic polymer. I got some loot from a red drop, which was surprisingly good. And I finally found an ovis, which I murdered on site. I've spent the entirety of day 21 looking around for good level Thylates, and I couldn't find any. That's pretty much it. On day 22 I tamed up 2 otters, and it's for the sole reason that they are the only creature in the game that can carry artifacts in their inventories, which would come in handy once I start exploring the caves of the island. I finally got all the necessary resources and reached the needed level to build an industrial forge. I placed it, and oh my god, is this thing worth it. Just look at the amount of metal I'm getting. On the next day I've made a vault, a chemistry bench, and started making a greenhouse. On day 24 I was mainly collecting resources in order to make an industrial cooker. I'm not really gonna be using this thing for a while, at least up until day 50. On day 25 I set out to tame a Theomia in order to help with production of fertilizer. I knocked it out, I tamed it, and I just ran out of names at this point, so I just named this guy. And here's the reason why I tamed him. That's a lot of poop. On day 26 I was flying through the redwoods looking for Thylates, again, and I couldn't find any, again. On day 27 I saw this cute couple chilling on a tree, and yeah, I murdered them. in cold blood. On day 28 I finally found a decent level Thylacoleo. I've built a trap for it, I got him close to it, tried to pick him up, and poof! He was gone. He just vanished. Without a trace. That really frustrated me. I was so angry at this point. Obviously it wasn't my fault that this guy disappeared, and it was the game fucking me over. So I decided to, you know, spawn one in and tame him the usual way. I hope it's not a big deal breaker for you. I did spawn a lower level Thyla, and this is the only instance where I actually used cheats and console commands during this entire playthrough. So yeah, she tamed up, and I named her Crunchy. No idea why, don't ask. And yeah, she looks cool. On day 29, not a lot of interesting things happened. I just went around the entire ocean killing jellyfish to harvest their biotoxin to make some shocking trank darts. That's pretty much it, so yeah. On day 30, I got some really good loot out of a supply crate, which was honestly quite surprising. I also saw a Sarco in the snow biome. That's weird, but I'll allow it. I saw an Aves in the redwoods. I also saw another Aves right next to the red obelisk. I had no clue that these guys actually spawned outside of the snow biome. On day 31, I started working towards making a T-Rex army, and I saw this level 100 Rex. I decided not to pass up on such an opportunity, so I lured him into a trap, I tranked him, and I tamed him. I got him into a cryopod, and man are these things really useful. Transporting large dinos like T-Rexes is a lot easier than it used to be. The following day I've made a cryofridge to store all of my cryopods, and I went around the map again to search for T-Rexes, and I found this level 104, and I just repeated the same process as I did with the first Rex, which is lure, trank, feed, name, done. And I left the name as is. Because, well, it fits. It's very appropriate. I got back to base, and this happened. How rude. On day 33, I was on the rear end of the female, waiting for an egg to pop out. That sounds weird. And at the end of the day, I built a place where I could hatch the eggs. On day 34, while I was waiting for the egg to hatch, I decorated kind of like the guest area of the compound. I've built some chairs, some tables, I've placed beer barrels, and I think the place looks very comfy. The baby male finally hatched, and luckily it had all the best stats from both the parents. That meant that sadly I was no longer in need of Chomper. And by the way, Chomper is gonna stay in that cryopod for all of eternity. On day 35, I've made a foolish mistake of trying to tame a Eutyrannus. I really had no idea of what I was getting myself into. Yeah, this happened for quite some time, as I tried to lure it into a trap. It got into the water, and a brilliant idea crossed my mind. Why don't they just knock it out while it is in the water? And I did just that. It got knocked out, and I went to check on it, and it was losing oxygen very quickly. It obviously died before I could tame it. I really have no clue what I was expecting would happen. But I did not leave empty-handed that day, because a level 116 Spino was literally 5 meters away. So I have built a trap, I got him in, I knocked him out, and I tamed him. I thought Cracker would be a really good name for him. His sail kind of looks like a cracker. I think it does. Luck was on my side apparently that day, because I saw a level 104 Eutyrannus right next to the place where I've tamed the Spino. So obviously I got him into a trap, kind of haphazardly built trap, but still worked. I knocked him out and I tamed him. The following day I was on the lookout for Daedons, and I saw this level 120 Daedon, which I just had to tame. I got him into this very convenient spot, right next to the blue obelisk. I got back to base to drop off the Spino and the UT, and I now know what cryosickness is. Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. Then I got back to the Daedon, I knocked him out, and I tamed him up. Back at base, I named the Utaranus Kevin, and I named the Daedon Bacon. 2 support dinos. Together, they're Kevin Bacon. I thought I was being clever. No, not really. On day 37, this happened. Yeah, that Alpha Megalodon wasn't really that big of a problem. I also for some reason tamed up a Baryonyx, which I ended up not using at all. Nevertheless, it got tamed up, I cryopoded it, and I went back to base, where I started hatching some more Rexes. Look at these babies, they're so cute. Aww. Yeah, I basically raised the Rexes for the rest of the day. Yeah. Day 39 started out with some more resource gathering. I've made an industrial grinder, and that Pteranodon was hanging out. Was chilling, you know. I hatched some more Rexes, and I ended the day off by decorating the compound a bit more. On day 40, I was angrily staring at an egg for some reason, and I raised more Rexes. Not much else to see here. Oh, and I also got stuck between these guys right here. That was fun. On day 41, I finally went spelunking in the Artifact of the Clever Cave, which went very smoothly. Kudos to the overpowered Thylacoleo. Next up was the Artifact of the Hunter, which was also fairly easy. And by the end of the day, I was on my way towards the Artifact of the Massive Cave. Once there, I found a cave Lystrosaurus, I killed some bad guys, got rabies, and got the artifact. And upon leaving the cave, I encountered a level 120 Rex, and I just had to tame it. Once tamed, it had 8000 health, which was a massive upgrade from the 5000 health that we had on other Rexes. The following day, I bred the newly tamed Rex with the other females. I got attacked by bees while I was trying to place a tree platform. I placed some taps that would produce tree sap, and got some more Rexes. Day 45, and I was leveling some of the Rexes up. I got them all mating and collected the eggs. On day 46, the Rex army was finally complete. Some caves on the island are underwater, so I obviously needed an underwater tame. I went around the entirety of the southern part of the island's ocean, and I happened to come across a decent level Basilosaurus, which I tamed, and I named her Green Submarine. Yeah, I was kind of struggling with names. The next 2 days I've spent collecting the artifacts required for the Megapithecus boss battle. I fought an Alpha Elite Sigphis, which honestly is not as powerful as it looks. I got the artifact from the easy underwater cave. I fought an Alpha Tusoteuthis, which is quite an easy fight if you can kite it like I did here. And the last 2 days of the first half of the challenge I've spent leveling up the Rexes. Yeah, it wasn't very exciting. On day 51, I went into the hard underwater cave to get the artifact of the cunning. For some reason there were very little Tusos and Moses in this cave, but I still stuck to the ceiling, so as to avoid any unnecessary confrontation with the other dinos. I got to the land area in this cave to search for the artifact there, then I realized it's not there. Then I remembered the actual way of where I needed to go, and I got the artifact, which was surprisingly easy. The next 2 days were dedicated to the Ice Cave, which is by far the hardest cave on the island, in my opinion. I went into this cave with an unleveled Rex, and by the end of it, he was almost fully leveled. But I had to spend a lot of time healing it up with meat, in between the small fights with the other creatures. I got the artifact, waited around for 2 more to spawn, placed those in the otter, and I was on my way out. The Swamp Cave was next on the list. In order to complete it, I needed to craft a gas mask. While the first kind of section of the cave was kind of difficult, once you get through it, there is actually a way to get the artifact without needing to go through the entire cave. There is a hole in the wall, and you will require a grappling hook to get to it. So you grapple towards it, you crouch, and boom, there's the artifact. These last few days were kind of stressful for me, so I did the next best thing to calm myself down after such a traumatic experience, which is fishing. I don't know why, but I really enjoy fishing in this game. I didn't get any good blueprints. And by day 55 we had all of the artifacts in our possession. I don't remember what else I've done on day 55 because I forgot to record. Sorry. I started day 56 off by leveling some more Rexes. Yay, that's very exciting. Then I went into the ocean to get some deep sea loot crates. I encountered this Megalodon, which seemed to not understand how to hit me for some reason. I got to the loot crate and the stuff in it was kind of mediocre at best. I found the second deep sea loot crate and I fought an Alpha Tusoteuthis, which also for some reason found it very difficult to land a hit on me. And I finished the day off by fishing. It's a very relaxing activity for me, okay?
Stand by for Titanfall.
I gave my armor a fresh coat of paint, and I went in search of a Giga, either to kill or to tame. I found this level 88 Giga which I decided to kill, so I started setting up this excessively elaborate trap. The plan went haywire. After what seemed to be an eternity, this thing finally got stuck. Somehow. I've no idea how it got stuck. And I placed metal dino gates around it very haphazardly. Then this happened. Let me tell you something. I've never been this anxious, scared, and frightened in my entire life. I was trying to figure out what the hell do I do, hoping that this Giga doesn't start biting on my Thylacoleo, and I realized that I have a cryopod in my hand, so I just put Crunchy into a cryopod. Then I went ham on this thing. Bleeding does so much damage to a Giga, just look at this thing melt. No joke, I killed this thing in like 2 minutes. And once it died, I got the Giga Heart, which is required for the Dragon boss fight on Beta and Alpha. While going through the snow biome, I spotted this level 104 Giga, which I had to make my own. I've built a trap, very similar to the previous one. I lured it in, and I closed off the area behind it. Now it was only a matter of tranking it and knocking it out. I had to spend all of my trank darts on this thing, and some trank arrows which I brought as backups. The Giga finally went to sleep, I tamed him, and I named him Jonathan. Just because he looks like Jonathan. This thing is an absolute unit. I cleared out the entirety of Carno Island in less than 5 minutes, including this Alpha T-Rex. This fight was very one-sided. I got Jonathan back to base, and I began putting all of the Rexes into cryopods, because I was planning on fighting the bosses very soon. These are the final stats that all of the Rexes had, and this amount of health is going to bite me in the ass, but that comes later. I got them all to the green obelisk. Look at them sleeping together. That's so cute. Also, this looks like a scene from a horror movie. Also, wildcard. What the hell is this? On day 61 I was debating whether or not to go straight for the beta or to test the waters with the Gamma Broodmother, and I decided to go with the Gamma Broodmother first. I was inputting the wrong whistle command without even realizing that. But other than that, the fight went quite smoothly actually. By the way, I am going to be speeding up some of these boss fights because they do take some time. And just like that, the Gamma Broodmother was defeated. Most of the Rexes were pretty healthy, and some were not even damaged at all, meaning that I didn't actually have to heal them with the Daedon. So I got all of the items needed for the Beta Broodmother, put all of the trophies and the element on my RG, and started the boss battle. I was once again inputting the wrong whistle command, but this was basically my first time actually fighting these bosses, so I think I can be forgiven for that. And the fight with the Beta Broodmother, similar to the Gamma Broodmother, went pretty smoothly. Some of the Rexes were at half health, and some, once again, were barely damaged. After the fight was over, I put the army into cryopods and went into the snow biome towards the blue obelisk for the fight against the Megapithecus. I've spent the entirety of day 62 healing up the Rexes, and by the end of it, I put all of the necessary items into the terminal and started the battle on Gamma difficulty. Before starting a fight with this thing, I had to lure it into the starting area where all of my Rexes were. The Megapithecus is, without a doubt, the easiest boss battle on the island. It doesn't have a lot of health, its minions also are pretty useless. The only thing it's good at is dealing damage. It's kind of like a glass cannon of the bosses. This boss battle didn't take nearly as much time as I thought it would. The Rexes were once again pretty healthy, and I went straight into the Beta boss fight. The Beta Megapithecus boss battle went pretty much the same as it did on Gamma difficulty. On day 64, I healed up the Rexes and went into this boss battle on Alpha difficulty. The same tactic that I've used before applied to the Alpha Megapithecus. And there you go! The Alpha Megapithecus was defeated, and surprisingly enough, most of the Rexes were pretty healthy. That gave me a significant confidence boost in deciding to fight the Alpha Broodmother, which proved to be a really bad decision. You'll see why a bit later. After the fight against the Alpha Megapithecus, I went back to base and made a replicator. Honestly, this thing, it just does not need to be this big. Day 65 was Judgment Day. I'm just gonna let the gameplay speak for itself. The decision to fight the Alpha Broodmother ultimately derailed all of my plans. I was really demoralized, I'll admit, but I couldn't give up now. I've spent the next 20 days rebuilding, after that fiasco with the Alpha Broodmother, and everything that I've done during those 20 days was just breed Rexes, collect eggs, hatch those eggs, raise the babies, level up the babies, and trust me, it's far from being the most exciting thing in the world. So here's a short montage of how those 20 days went by. Day 85 finally came. It was now or never. If I were to fail this, I would have had to spend 20 more days rebuilding, which I just couldn't afford. My plan for this was to separate the Rexes into two whistle groups, which you can see on this crudely drawn picture I've made. Send the first group to the Broodmother's front and the second group to its rear end, as I've noticed that some of the Rexes in the previous boss battles were unable to hit it because of how far away the Broodmother was. And they were still getting hit by the Broodmother because of her insane AoE. I was sweating, I was shaking, and my heart was pounding at what seemed to be like 1 million beats per second, but it was done. I only lost 2 Rexes this time, and most of the Rexes in the front were hurt, significantly hurt, while those in the back were fairly healthy. And upon further reflection, I probably should have courage roared before getting into the arena and sending the first group into the fight, but still, I won, and that's what mattered. I got back to base, stored away the Alpha Broodmother trophy, got all of the Rexes out of the cryopods at the Red Obelisk, and raised up 2 replacement Rexes. In order for me to fight the Alpha Dragon, I needed 2 more gigahertz, so I looked around the entire map to find 2 more gigas to kill. Honestly, the hardest part about this was actually getting the giga into the trap. Day 88 was the first encounter with the dragon. I chose the Gamma difficulty, obviously, and this fight was very scuffed. I forgot that all of the Rexes were in different whistle groups. I tried my hardest to juggle these 2 groups of Rexes. It didn't help that I was very anxious throughout this boss fight because of the dragon being the hardest boss on the island, due to his fire breath dealing percentage-based damage to the tames. And the dragon, for some reason, just did not want to land. Nevertheless, I'm just gonna let the battle play out. And just like that, the dragon on Gamma was defeated. Again, it was very scuffed, but I still won. Most of the Rexes were at half health, so I had to heal them up with the Daedons. Thankfully, it didn't take too long because I had 3 Daedons. I quickly went back to base to place the dragon trophy on the trophy wall mount, and the guest room finally was complete, and it looked pretty spiffy, not gonna lie. I've also made an assault rifle with all of my levels poured into crafting skill. The next day was obviously the Beta Dragon. I will say that I handled it a bit better than I handled the Dragon on Gamma difficulty. I removed the Rexes from the whistle groups, obviously, but by the end of the fight, only a few Rexes will remain. And at this point, the Rexes just started dropping like flies. Yeah, going into this fight with Rexes was a terrible idea. The dragon on Beta difficulty absolutely decimated the entire army. If I were to go up against the Alpha Dragon with an army of Rexes, I would not stand a chance. The dragon's fire breath deals increased damage to carnivores, so it was quite clear that if I were to stand a chance against an Alpha Dragon, I would require an army of herbivores, specifically a Therizinosaurus army. I got the Rex army, or what was left of it, back to base and started thinking over about what to do next. On day 90, I got everything I needed to tame a Therizinosaurus and went out in search of a decent level male and female. Thankfully, I didn't have to search for too long, as I found a decent level female fairly close to my base. I trapped it, knocked it out, and got it tamed. Then I found and tamed the male Therizino. The female had very mediocre stats all around, while the male had really good health and melee. All I had to do was just carry over the health and melee stat into a baby female. And that's exactly what I did for the next 7 days. So here's a short montage of how those 7 days went by. By day 98, all of the theories were finally ready. If you wanna see their stats, pause the video. I gave all of them at least 5 veggie cakes, and at the start of day 99, the final test began. Overall, I had 15 Therizinos and 4 Rexes. Those 4 Rexes would serve as kind of like the muscle of the army. Truth be told, I didn't really expect for them to live through this entire fight, but they still served their purpose. And there you go. The final test, the strongest boss on the island, was finally defeated. Back at base, I stored away the dragon trophy and placed the final flag in my base. On the final day of the challenge, I made myself a tech suit. I gave it a fresh coat of paint, so the suit itself would look more like the suit of the Doomslayer. And for the remainder of day 100, all I did was mess around in the tech suit. And this thing is really sweet. And to celebrate the end of day 100, I decided that I would go fishing, because it is, after all, my... Wait, where is this music coming from? So, if you've made it this far watching, I am beyond grateful. I've been making this video for several months at this point, and I'm glad that you've made it this far. The defeat at the hands, or I guess in this case legs or claws, of the Broodmother was detrimental to my plans at defeating the Alpha Overseer by day 100, but I've learned my lesson, and if you are in any way interested in me continuing this series, by all means, feel free to give your feedback in the comments as to how I should continue it. Do you want me to make a separate video for the Overseer, or do you want me to continue surviving for 100 more days, during which I build more bases, breed more dinos, and inevitably face the Overseer? This playthrough was really fun, and I do hope that you've enjoyed watching me complete this challenge. Anyways, thank you everybody for watching, have a good one. Peace.